Jamal Carter, a 24-year-old competitive swimmer, stood out not just for his talent, but for his presence. Standing at 6 feet 3 inches with a lean, muscular build sculpted from years of relentless training, his broad shoulders and toned arms were a testament to the grueling hours he spent in the pool. His rich, dark skin gleamed under the overhead lights of the aquatic center, a stark contrast to the pale blue of his swim cap and goggles resting atop his head. Short, tightly coiled black hair peeked from under the edges of the cap, and his deep brown eyes held both warmth and a quiet intensity. Jamal was known for his easygoing smile, one that often lit up the room, yet there was an unmistakable determination in his gaze, one that only surfaced when he stepped onto the pool deck. Despite his outward confidence, Jamal was a complex mix of self-assuredness and lingering doubt. He was friendly and humble, always taking time to encourage younger swimmers and exchange laughs with his teammates. But beneath the surface lay an ever-present awareness of the scrutiny he faced. Being one of the few black swimmers in a predominantly white sport wasn't something he could forget, even when he tried. Yet, what truly defined Jamal was his resilience. He didn't swim for fame or applause. He swam for the peace it brought him, the sense of freedom beneath the water that words could never fully capture. He had faced setbacks before, losses, injuries, whispers questioning if he belonged, but he had never let them stop him. His ultimate goal was clear: break records, yes, but more importantly, break barriers. Jamal's days began before the sun had even considered rising. His alarm blared at 4:30 a.m., and within minutes, he was up, stretching out the stiffness from another short night's sleep. His morning started with a quick protein shake and a mental review of his goals for the day. By 5 a.m., he was at the pool. The water, cold and unforgiving at first, soon became his sanctuary. Lap after lap, he pushed himself through the water, focusing on every stroke, every breath, every turn. His coach, Marcus Hayes, a gruff yet caring man in his 50s, watched from the deck, occasionally barking out times and corrections. Extend that reach, Jamal. Don't let up now. After the initial swim session, Jamal grabbed a quick breakfast of oatmeal and eggs before heading to the gym. There he focused on weightlifting and core strength, gritting through sets of squats, deadlifts, and planks that burned but were necessary to shave milliseconds off his time. His afternoons included a second swim session, focusing on technique, starts, turns, finishes, and refining the small details that made the difference between first and second place. Evenings were reserved for recovery. Ice baths that sent shivers down his spine, stretching routines that seemed endless, and meticulously planned meals to fuel his body. By the time night fell, exhaustion tugged at him, but he still found moments to connect with his family over dinner or unwind with music, jazz, and old-school hip-hop being his favorites. Bedtime rarely came before 10 p.m., but Jamal never complained. Every ache, every early morning was a step closer to his dream. The primary setting of Jamal's world was the Crestview Aquatic Center, a sprawling facility known for producing top-tier swimmers. The main pool, a shimmering expanse of blue under bright overhead lights, stretched 50 meters long with perfectly placed lane dividers in alternating colors of red, white, and blue. The walls were adorned with motivational quotes and records, some of which Jamal had already broken. The chlorine scent was ever present, a familiar burn in his nose that oddly comforted him after so many years. The echo of splashing water, shouted times, and the faint hum of the filtration system created a symphony of sound that defined his second home. Outside the pool area, the locker rooms buzzed with pre-competition nerves and post-practice chatter. Wooden benches, slightly worn from years of use, held scattered towels and gear bags. The weight room, adjacent to the pool, was filled with the metallic clang of weights and the rhythmic pounding of treadmill belts. Jamal often found solace in this environment, where hard work was universal and words weren't always necessary. Jamal's actual home was a modest 2-bedroom apartment a short drive from the center. Walls adorned with family photos and medals told the story of his journey. His mother, Denise, was his biggest supporter, her voice always the loudest in the stands. His younger sister, Maya, often joked about being his unofficial manager, handling his social media, and keeping him grounded. Despite the coziness of his apartment, it was filled with reminders of sacrifice, budgeted meals, second-hand furniture, and a relentless focus on investing in his swimming career over luxuries. The town itself was a mix of suburban charm and quiet ambition. Local cafes, parks, and small businesses lined the streets, many recognizing Jamal as our hometown swimmer. Some embraced his success wholeheartedly. Others watched with indifference or subtle skepticism. The community's support, while mostly positive, wasn't without its undercurrents. Occasional side glances or murmurs questioning his place in the sport still surfaced. Yet, it was at the aquatic center, under the harsh glare of fluorescent lights reflecting off the water surface, that Jamal truly felt at home. Despite the external support and personal achievements, Jamal couldn't shake the weight of the unspoken question, "Do I truly belong?" Moments of doubt crept in at unexpected times, during quiet drives home, solitary laps in the pool, or scrolling through social media where comments sometimes veered into ugly territory. "Swimming isn't really your sport," one anonymous comment had read, echoing sentiments he'd encountered in whispers and offhand remarks at competitions. He tried to brush them off, focusing instead on his training and goals, but the words lingered like shadows at the edge of his mind. His upcoming competition, the National Championships, was the biggest of his career. Not only was it a chance to secure a spot on the Olympic team, but he was also poised to break a long-standing record. The pressure was immense, not just from expectations, but from a nagging fear that, even if he won, there would still be those who doubted him because of the color of his skin. Yet, amid these fears, there was a spark of resolve. Let them talk. I'll let my swimming speak for me. Still, as the day of the race loomed, the question remained, would it be enough? The day of the national championships dawned cool and gray, a thin layer of mist hovering over the streets as Jamal drove to the Crestview Aquatic Center. His stomach twisted with nerves, though he masked it with his usual calm exterior. Pulling into the crowded parking lot, he noticed the swarm of cars, media vans, and enthusiastic fans gathering outside. Inside, the air buzzed with anticipation. Competitors stretched, coaches barked instructions, and the scent of chlorine and adrenaline filled the space. Jamal slipped into his routine, check-in, warm-up laps, and then a moment alone in the locker room. Sitting on the bench, he adjusted his goggles and stared at his reflection in the small mirror above the sinks. This is it, he thought. All those mornings, all that pain, this is why. Walking to the pool deck, the roar of the crowd hit him like a wave. His heart pounded as he approached his starting block for the 100-meter freestyle final. Beside him stood Ryan Whitaker, a decorated swimmer and the current record holder. Ryan offered a nod, but there was something in his smirk, a flash of condescension, that Jamal couldn't ignore. As the announcer's voice boomed across the arena, introducing each swimmer, Jamal heard scattered murmurs from the crowd. "He's good, but can he really take the record?" One voice questioned. Another whispered, "Ryan's got this." No contest. Jamal clenched his jaw, tuning out the noise. The official called them to their marks. Hands gripping the edge of the block, he took a deep breath. The buzzer sounded. The water swallowed him whole, cool and familiar. Every stroke was practiced perfection, fingers slicing through the water, legs kicking in a rhythmic blur. Jamal's focus narrowed to the feel of the water against his skin, the rush of bubbles in his ears, the faint sound of the crowd muffled above. Breathe, pull, kick. His mantra echoed with each stroke. At the turn, he caught a glimpse of Ryan just half a body length behind. His lungs burned, muscles screamed, but he pushed harder. Don't let up now. The final 25 meters stretched endlessly, yet adrenaline fueled him. His hand slammed the wall, and for a breathless moment, he floated heart-pounding. Turning to the scoreboard, his eyes widened. 46.71 seconds. New record. He'd done it. He'd beaten Ryan, shattered the record, and proved every doubter wrong. Relief surged through him, followed by a rush of joy. Raising his arms in victory, he glanced at the stands. Most of the crowd erupted in cheers, some standing and applauding. But amidst the celebration, he caught sight of a few folded arms and stony expressions. A mix of pride and lingering bitterness twisted in his chest. Why can't they just be happy? The hours after the race blurred together. Media interviews, congratulatory backslaps from teammates, and phone calls from friends and family. His mother's voice crackled with emotion over the phone. "Baby, I knew you could do it. I'm so proud of you." His sister Maya, ever the hype woman, had already flooded social media with videos of his victory and jubilant captions. But as night fell and the adrenaline wore off, reality crept back in. Scrolling through comments online, Jamal's smile faltered. While many celebrated his achievement, others weren't as kind. He just got lucky. Bet Ryan was off his game. Swimming's not his sport anyway. The negativity, though drowned out by support, still stung. Turning off his phone, he lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Why does it always have to be like this? His routine the following days was a whirlwind. Interviews, sponsor offers, and invitations to talk shows. Yet, the undercurrent of skepticism lingered. Even in congratulatory conversations, there were subtle jabs. "Impressive time. Didn't expect that from you," one commentator had said, his tone dripping with implications. Jamal pushed through, focusing on training for the upcoming Olympic qualifiers, but the joy of his victory felt shadowed by doubt and criticism. In the days following Jamal's record-breaking swim, what should have been a period of celebration quickly morphed into something else. The media frenzy intensified, with news outlets replaying his victory over and over. Headlines like "Black Swimmer Shocks Nation" with record-breaking performance circulated widely. While the phrase "Shocks Nation" was intended to praise his unexpected triumph, Jamal couldn't help but sense the underlying tone of surprise that someone like him had achieved this milestone. Social media platforms became battlegrounds. Fans rallied to his defense, flooding comments with pride and encouragement. Yet, the detractors were persistent. On one sports talk show, a well-known analyst questioned, "Is Jamal's one a fluke?" Ryan Whitaker has been consistently dominant for years. One off day shouldn't crown a new king. Another panelist chimed in, "Let's be honest, the crowd wasn't exactly rooting for Jamal. People love consistency, and Ryan's been their guy." Then came Ryan's interview. With cameras rolling, Ryan said, "Look, Jamal swam great. I'm not taking that away from him. But people know I wasn't at my best that day. We'll see who comes out on top at the qualifiers." His words, though measured, reignited debates. Was Jamal's victory legitimate? Could he replicate the performance? What truly hit hard was the resurfacing of an old comment thread from a local swim forum. "Swimming's not really his lane. He should stick to track. Never seen a black swimmer at this level. Wonder how long that lasts." These weren't new sentiments to Jamal, but seeing them explode online, attached to his name, was like a fresh wound reopening. Amid the noise, Jamal's support system rallied. Coach Martinez, always a pillar of calm, called him into his office. "Ignore the chatter," he advised, his voice steady. "Let your work speak. Focus on the pool. That's where you shut them up." Jamal nodded, grateful for the guidance, but still grappling with the pressure. Maya, his younger sister, took a more aggressive approach. She posted a fiery video online. "For everyone doubting my brother, check the scoreboard. Records don't lie." The clip went viral, drawing both applause and further controversy. Jamal appreciated her loyalty, but worried the attention was becoming more about the drama than his achievement. Then there was Ryan, who after their tense post-race interaction, reached out privately. "Hey man," the text read, "media's twisting things. Didn't mean to throw shade. Let's settle it in the pool." Jamal stared at the message. Part of him respected the gesture, but another part bristled. Why should I have to prove myself again? Isn't breaking the record enough? His mother tried to be a soothing presence. "Baby, they don't define you. You've been swimming since you were a child. This isn't about them, it's about you." Her words helped, but the constant barrage of opinions weighed heavily. Late at night, alone in his apartment, Jamal found himself battling a torrent of emotions. Sitting on the edge of his bed, he scrolled through countless notifications, eyes burning from exhaustion and frustration. Why can't they just let me enjoy this? He tossed his phone aside, rubbing his face. Success, it seemed, brought its own kind of loneliness. Memories of his early swimming days surfaced. He remembered being the only black kid at the local swim meets, hearing whispers about how rare it was. Coaches who praised him, but always with a tinge of surprise. Parents of competitors who'd glance at him with skepticism. Back then, he thought breaking records would silence those doubts. Yet, here he was, world-class and still fighting the same battle. Doubt crept in. What if they're right? What if it was a fluke? His training sessions grew more intense, pushing himself to exhaustion. Coach Martinez noticed a change. "You're overthinking," he warned. "You've got to swim your race, not theirs." But Jamal struggled to shake the nagging voice in his head that kept saying, "Prove them wrong." During one grueling practice, his strokes faltered. Frustration boiled over. Slamming his fist into the water, he let out a muffled yell. Why does being good have to come with a debate? Teammates exchanged glances, but said nothing. Sleep became elusive. He lay awake, replaying races in his mind, dissecting every stroke, every breath. The pressure to not just win, but dominate in the upcoming Olympic qualifiers felt suffocating. What if he didn't perform? The critics would pounce. They'd say, "I never deserved it." Amid the turmoil, a small, persistent voice urged him, "Remember why you started." He thought back to his childhood, summer spent at the local pool, the pure joy of slicing through water, the weightlessness, the freedom. When had it become about everyone else? As the Olympic qualifiers loomed closer, the tension reached a fever pitch. News outlets hyped it as the showdown of the year. Jamal versus Ryan, a battle for redemption and validation. Jamal found himself standing at the edge of the pool after practice one evening, the empty lanes stretching before him. Tomorrow's the day, he thought, heart heavy. Win, and he'd silence the doubters, at least for now. Lose, and the noise would be deafening. But deeper than external pressure was the internal battle. Was he swimming to win, or swimming to prove people wrong? Pulling his goggles down, he dove into the cool embrace of the water. Stroke after stroke, he sought clarity. Tomorrow wasn't just about a race. It was about reclaiming the joy, the passion that started this journey. Still, as he emerged from the water, lungs burning, one thought lingered. What if it's not enough? The morning of the Olympic qualifiers arrived with a buzz of anticipation. The arena was electric, packed with spectators waving flags, their excited chatter echoing through the cavernous space. Cameras zoomed in on the swimmers as they warmed up, capturing every stretch and stride. Jamal moved through his routine, muscles taut, heart pounding in rhythm with the crowd's energy. He glanced at the scoreboard where his name appeared next to Ryan's. Lane 4 and Lane 5, side by side. This is it, he thought. Coach Martinez placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Remember, swim your race." Not his. Jamal nodded, but nerves twisted in his gut. Walking to the starting blocks, he felt the weight of thousands of eyes, the burden of expectation pressing down. Ryan caught his gaze and offered a quick nod. It wasn't arrogance this time, just mutual respect between rivals. "Swimmers, take your marks," the announcer's voice boomed. Jamal crouched low, the cool metal beneath his feet grounding him. "Breathe in. Focus." The buzzer sounded. He launched into the water, arms slicing through the surface. Adrenaline surged as he found his rhythm. Pull, kick, breathe. Ryan was a blur beside him, their strokes mirroring each other. The crowd roared, voices blending into a deafening hum. At the final turn, Jamal caught a glimpse, Ryan slightly ahead. "Push!" His lungs burned, arms screamed in protest, but he poured every ounce of strength into the last 50 meters. Water splashed wildly around them, the finish wall approaching like a beacon. They touched the wall almost simultaneously. Jamal whipped off his goggles, chest heaving, and looked up. The scoreboard flashed. First, Jamal Carter, 47.91 seconds, new national record. Second, Ryan Whitaker, 48.02 seconds. The arena erupted. Jamal's eyes widened. He'd done it. Again, hands on his knees, breath ragged. A mix of relief and disbelief washed over him. As cameras zoomed in, Jamal expected the familiar chorus of cheers. Instead, something remarkable happened. The crowd, which had previously seemed divided, erupted into a thunderous, unified cheer. People stood, clapping and chanting his name. Jamal! Jamal! The roar was so loud it seemed to shake the entire arena. Stunned, Jamal glanced around. Was this for him? He spotted fans waving handmade signs. Jamal inspires. Black excellence. Even some who had booed days earlier now cheered, faces lit with admiration. His throat tightened. They see me. Then Ryan approached, extending his hand. Jamal hesitated, memories of past tensions flashing through his mind. But something in Ryan's eyes, genuine respect, made him reach out. Their handshake turned into a brief hug, cameras capturing the moment. Ryan leaned in and said, "You earned this, man. No excuses. You're the best out here." Reporters swarmed, microphones shoved forward. One asked, "Jamal, what do you say to those who doubted you?" He paused, glancing at the crowd, the scoreboard, then back at the camera. "I don't swim to prove people wrong," he said, voice steady. "I swim to prove to myself that I belong. And for every kid watching who thinks they can't, you can." The words hit hard. People in the stands wiped away tears. Young swimmers cheered louder, and social media lit up with the clip, captions reading, "A champion's humility." Back in the locker room, away from the chaos, Jamal sat on the bench, towel draped over his shoulders. The adrenaline began to fade, replaced by a flood of emotions. His phone buzzed relentlessly, texts, notifications, congratulations. Maya sent a selfie with a massive grin, captioned, "Told you, you're a legend." Scrolling through social media, he saw an overwhelming wave of support. One posted out a video of a young black boy watching Jamal's race at home, jumping up and down, shouting, "He looks like me. He looks like me." Tears blurred Jamal's vision. This is why I swim." Coach Martinez entered, grinning. "So, how does it feel to shut everyone up and make history?" Jamal chuckled through the lump in his throat. "Feels surreal." His coach added, "Proud of you, kid. Not just for winning, but for how you carried yourself." Later, standing alone in the empty arena, the crowd now gone, Jamal gazed at the pool. The water, calm and still, reflected the overhead lights. So much had changed, but one thing remained. The peace he found in the water. All the noise, the criticism, the doubt. Out there, in here, just him and Elaine. He took a deep breath, letting the stillness sink in. Not just a record holder, not just a headline. A swimmer, a fighter, someone who faced the storm and came out stronger. The days following Jamal's victory were a whirlwind. Interviews, sponsor meetings, and public appearances filled his schedule. Yet, amid the frenzy, he prioritized something else, reaching out to those who had doubted him, not with anger, but with understanding. He accepted an invitation to speak at a youth swimming clinic, where dozens of kids awaited him with wide eyes. Jamal knelt beside a young girl, her hair tied in neat braids. "I don't think I can swim fast," she whispered. Jamal smiled gently. "Neither did I once, but you won't know unless you try." Her face lit up as she dove in, splashing water everywhere. Later, Jamal surprised his old high school coach with a visit. "Never thought you'd come back here," Coach Daniels chuckled. Jamal grinned. "Had to thank you. You believed in me when I didn't." Their handshake turned into a heartfelt hug, memories of early morning practices and pep talks flooding back. He even responded to some of his harshest critics online, not with sarcasm, but with empathy. "Appreciate your honesty," he replied to one. "Hope watching the race changed your perspective." Some apologized. Others, surprisingly, became his staunchest supporters. By embracing forgiveness over resentment, Jamal felt the weight on his shoulders lift. Healing wasn't just for others. It was for him too. Jamal's victory did more than break records. It broke barriers. Swim clubs across the country reported increased enrollment among Black and minority children, inspired by his journey. News outlets dubbed it the Jamal Effect. With newfound influence, Jamal partnered with organizations to fund scholarships for underprivileged kids. "Talent is everywhere," he said at the launch event. "Opportunity isn't. Let's change that." His words resonated, donations pouring in from around the globe. His relationship with Maya deepened. One evening, as they walked along the beach, she nudged him playfully. "You realize you're a role model now, right?" Jamal laughed. Scary thought. But truthfully, he embraced the responsibility. Being more than just an athlete, being a symbol of perseverance and hope, felt right. Training resumed, but with a different energy. Less about proving himself, more about passion. The pool wasn't a battleground anymore. It was home. And every stroke carried gratitude for how far he'd come. One quiet morning, Jamal sat on the pier, sunrise painting the sky in warm hues. The waves lapped gently, soothing his thoughts. Pulling out his journal, he scribbled. It was never just about swimming. It was about pushing limits, facing fears, and rising above doubt. Mine and theirs. I swam to find peace, and in the end, I found myself. He closed the notebook, gazing at the horizon. The journey had been rough, full of hurdles and heartaches. But standing here now, he felt whole. Not because of medals or records, but because he'd stayed true to himself. As the sun fully emerged, casting golden light across the water, Jamal stood, took a deep breath, and dove into the sea. The cool embrace felt like a fresh start. Underwater, everything was silent, calm, just like the day it all began. Surfacing, he floated on his back, eyes closed, the warmth of the sun on his face. In that moment, there was no pressure, no noise, just gratitude. For the struggles, the lessons, the people who lifted him up. For the journey that had transformed him. Back on shore, a group of kids ran up. "Mr. Jamal, can we swim with you?" He grinned. "Race you to the buoy." Laughter echoed as they dashed into the waves, chasing dreams just like he once did. And as the day unfolded, one thing was clear. Jamal Carter wasn't just a champion in the pool. He was a champion in life. Inspired by Jamal's journey? Let his story be a reminder. No matter the odds, you have the power to rise above. Believe in yourself. Chase your dreams, and never let doubt hold you back. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that inspire change. Together, let's uplift voices that deserve to be heard.